Hello, welcome to 5-Star Recaps. Today I will show you the recap of a 2016 movie titled Fences. Spoiler alert. Watch out and take care. Troy Maxon works at the trash department lifting rubbish from the neighborhood along with his childhood friend, Bono. As they go on their duty that day, Troy talks about how he reported to their boss why the black had to do the lifting of the trash while the white only drove the truck. As a result, their boss asks him to come to the secretariat that weekend and Bono wonders if he will be punished. He says he isn't afraid of being punished as he only asked a question of what ought to be his right. He insists that there isn't a law that claims the black can't drive a truck and that he wants us to be allowed to drive the truck he wishes to. They finish work and go to deliver, they also collect their paycheck and return home. On their way, Bono accuses Troy of looking at a woman erotically, but Troy insists he looks at all women the same way. He tells Bono it's just friendship, and it does matter, but Bono asks why he bought the lady drink twice. If it's just being friends, it should have been just one. He defends himself and asks Bono if he has seen him flirt with any lady since he married his wife, Rose, and Bono testifies that he has been loyal. They walk home while talking about the lady, and as they speak in the backyard, Rose, his wife, comes out to welcome them. Rose asks if Bono will wait for dinner as she is making some chicken stew, but Bono tells her not to worry. He says his wife is also making pig feet. Bono remains with them as Rose and Troy talk about the first time they met and how Troy asked her out by telling her he isn't ready to marry, but he wants to be her man. She replies that if he doesn't want to marry, then he should leave her presence and stop blocking her from meeting her prospective husband, so he leaves, thinks about it, and returned to her. She talks about how their son, Corey, has been recruited into the football team, and the team will need Troy to sign a consent form, but Troy refuses. He insists that Corey should do something worthwhile as the whites will never allow the black ones to prosper in football. He uses his childhood experience in basketball as a point of contact and tells them how good he was, but he wasn't allowed to shine because of his skin color. Rose tells him not to project his fears on Corey as he doesn't intend to make football a career. It is just something he is doing at school. She tells him the world has changed and he was just unfortunate to be born at the wrong time, and blacks are now shining in sports, be it football or basketball. As they argue about this, another of his son, Lyons, arrives. While Rose welcomes Lyons, Troy refuses to talk to him because, according to Troy, Lyons only visited because he knows it's his payday. His assumptions are correct as Lyons asks him for $10. He refuses to give Lyons the money and asks Lyons to work for his money. Lyons says he will return his as his wife is already working. Troy asks Lyons why he also refuses to work and offers to get Lyons a job packing trash, but Lyons says that's not his way. He angrily replies that the $10 Lyons wants comes from that same source, and Lyons is just a lazy man with a passion for music but doesn't want to do anything else. He condemns Lyons' upbringing, claiming that his mother did a terrible job raising him, and this gets Lyons angry. He asks him where he was when his mother raised him and what right he has to talk about his upbringing. Eventually, Rose takes Troy's paycheck from him and gives Lyons the $10. He complains that Lyons is getting too old without having anything to do with his life. The following day as he wakes, he asks for Corey so they can make their fences, but Corey has gone for training. So as he speaks with Rose, he sees Gabriel, his brother who fought the Japanese War and got shot in his head. He is walking along and singing like an insane person. Rose and Troy go to meet him. Gabriel has just packed away from their house to Miss Pearl's house, and he wonders if Troy is angry with him, but Troy replies otherwise, and Rose asks him to come in for food. However, Gabriel didn't come inside. He leaves while Rose prepares the food, and when Rose returns, she speaks to her husband about taking Gabriel to a nursing home because he hasn't been eating. Troy talks about how he used the $3,000 Gabriel got for his damages after the war to build a house and says that if his brother hadn't lost his head, he mightn't have had a home in 58 years. He walks away, then Corey returns from his training. Rose leaves home, leaving Corey and Troy forces Corey to build the fence with him. While working, Corey tells him about the recruiter, but Troy says he isn't interested in signing anything and Corey should take a job to work on. Corey confesses that he has lost the job he was to work on, and Troy gets angry at him. He insists he goes back to work, which makes Corey ask why he hates him. As Corey walks away angrily, Rose comes by to tell Troy to sign Corey's recruitment papers as the boy wants to be good at sports. Troy goes to the commissioner's office, and he returns happily, screaming Rose's name from the community. Before coming home, he stops with Alberta, the lady Bono talks about. He gets home and, happily, announces that he will be the first black truck driver in the city. As they celebrate, Lyons also arrives to give him back his money as Bonnie. His wife has received her payment. At first, Troy refuses to accept the money, but Rose takes it on his behalf. Gabriel also arrives. Troy complains about how Gabriel stays at Miss Pearl's house, but Rose warns him never to talk about it again and that he must sign Corey's recruitment files too. He walks outside with Lyons and Bono, where he tells them of how he hid his abusive father at the age of 14 and ran away from home. He was in contact with only Gabriel, and he came to the city to start stealing. He stole from a white folk who removed a gun and shot him. He jumped at the man with his knife, and they claimed he killed the man. As a result, he spent 14 years in prison, where he met Bono and learned how to play baseball. Corey returns home, and Troy gets angry at him. He says he has gone to his workplace, finds out he isn't working, and has been lying. In anger, Corey replies to Troy that Troy is just jealous that he can be what Troy was unable to become, and Troy warns him that he has gotten his first strike and should ensure he doesn't strike out with him. Rose leads Corey inside as the police call for Troy after Gabriel gets arrested for disrupting public peace. Bono and Troy return from the court, and Corey joins them in building the fence. When Bono shows signs of telling Troy something important, Troy sends Corey inside, and Bono warns Troy of not destroying the perfect home he has with Rose by his acts with Alberta. He tells him how lovely Rose is and how Rose has always supported him, so he shouldn't destroy his home with Rose. After Bono leaves, Troy goes inside to tell Rose the outcome of the meeting with the judge. He tells her the judge had suggested that Gabriel should be taken into the nursing home, and the judgment has been adjourned. He tells Rose he is becoming a father as Alberta is pregnant with his baby. Rose breaks down in tears. She reminds him of how she spent 18 years of her life building life with him and how he knows she doesn't want to have families. She reminds him how her family was filled with several step-siblings. She moves to the fence in tears, and Troy tells him to work it out. She asks if he considered her before doing what he did and says he always takes without giving. In anger, Troy holds her hands painfully, and Corey has to intervene by pushing Troy to the fence. As a result, their happy family gets divided, and Troy barely spends time at home. Rose meets him at work and complains that he signed a document to confine Gabriel to a nursing home for half of Gabriel's allowance. He insists he didn't sign any document, and all he signed was a release form. It turns out he couldn't read the form he had signed. He visits Gabriel in the nursing home, and one night, as he sleeps, Rose wakes him to tell him Alberta has given birth, and it's a girl. However, Alberta died during childbirth. He challenges death to a duel again and then picks up the baby girl at the hospital. He tells Rose that the baby isn't involved in the adult fight, but Rose says it's none of her business. Eventually, Rose pities the little girl and accepts to train the child. Troy also grows apart from Bono, and they meet at a bar later, where they catch up with old times, including how Troy has successfully built his fence. He returns home drunk, and Corey, who has given up on his failed football career, takes the form of the Marines and asks to enter the house. He insists that Corey tells him to excuse himself from the road, and when the boy refuses, a fight starts between them. Corey swings his bat against Troy, and Troy takes the hit and strangles him. Corey leaves while Troy does his imaginary battle against death again. 6 years later, the little girl is now a young baby named Raynal, and Troy is dead. Corey returns and sees Raynal as an adult for the first time. He meets Lyons inside the house, and Lyons is serving a term of 3 years for forgery. He only takes a permit to be available for his father's funeral. Bono is also around, but he leaves to prepare for the sending off. And they hope that Gabriel will be released for the funeral. Corey walks to the fence and looks at it. Rose comes to him, and he tells Rose he doesn't want to attend Troy's funeral, but Rose slaps him. She tells him that if he thinks not attending his father's funeral will make him a man, then he is wrong. He tries to tell Rose how Troy was a shadow lurking around her till she died, but she tells him that despite all of Troy's faults, she still loves him, and he gave his best for Corey. As Rose walks away, Raynal comes to Corey and asks about Troy's dog, Blue. They sing a song Troy sings about Blue, and he remembers Troy. He asks Raynal to get dressed so they can go to the funeral. Gabriel eventually arrives, and they are excited to see him. He brings out his instrument and asks them to prepare while he plays the trumpet for St. Peter's to open the gate of heaven for Troy. As he plays for the third time, a bright sun shines over them. The family looks at the sun as the movie ends. Thanks for watching the recap. Kindly subscribe to our channel to get notified when we post the next recap. See you next time.